Welcome to the Outbound Sales Podcast with your host, Jeff Swan. Each week, we're going to be talking to sellers, sales leaders, and company founders who are sharing their secrets to getting over 10 meetings booked per month per rep. Every episode is going to be packed full of tactical and practical tips you can use to fill your funnel today. So thank you and happy hunting. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Fill a Funnel podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Swan. Really excited to be here. And today my guest is Kevin Hopp from Hopp Consulting Group, who's going to join us and tell everybody about his secrets for booking over 10 meetings a month every single month. So Kevin, can you tell us, introduce yourself to the audience and who you are, what you do, and who you prospect to?
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out here. I think I've followed you on LinkedIn for a while, so it's great to connect, and definitely happy to share my secret tricks of the trade, which might not be that secret if you follow me on LinkedIn. But,
I call them the not so secret secrets, you know?
Exactly. I got a little hint to it up here, right? Cold calling is dead. So Hopp Consulting Group, I do outbound sales process and strategy consulting, mostly around people that do sales calls, right? So anything that involves reaching out to a customer on the phone, this right here, this idea that cold calling is dead, stops a lot of people in their tracks. And I'm fanatical about cold calling and doing it the right way. So I sell mostly directly to either founding teams that don't have a dedicated sales resource, or to teams that have survived mostly on inbound, which is great until the quota goes above to the point where they need to go outbound. And if you don't know how to do outbound, it is a different motion than inbound. It's a different conversation. It's a different process. So that's kind of who I work with.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it kind of requires a different mindset as you go from that, founder-led sales, maybe product-led or inbound sales, to let's accelerate and grow this thing. And people always tend to turn to outbound, don't they?
Yeah. I think outbound, as I had a sales manager describe it to me one time, was it's rainmaking, right? If you can make the rain, then you can tell when your crops are going to grow. And it's that simple, right? So we have to be the rainmakers. We have to be able to shake the money tree, right? We all know that if you have a certain amount of product market fit, then there are customers out there that need what you have. The gap is that they don't know about it, and they might not understand the business problem that they're facing today. So outbound is all about going out and talking about business problems and valuable solutions to them and bringing them together so that people open their eyes, right? And that's kind of the goal.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the goal that I like to teach people when it comes to outbound is that your goal is not to change people's mind or shock them or anything like that. It's really just a matter of making them think differently about a problem that they either know they have and haven't thought about that way before, or illuminate like a new problem that they've just never even thought about at all.
That's right. And I think what discourages people, that leads to this sort of mentality, this whole cold calling is dead, is because they think that, cold calling, I pick up the phone, I generate a bunch of revenue, and everyone that I talk to is happy to hear from me because I have an ego, right? What? Who are you? Well, I'm Kevin. Don't you want to hear from me? Because every other time you call anyone in your life, I call my buddy Jeff. Hey, Jeff, what's up? You're like, hey, Kevin. Yeah, how's it going? And we expect this reciprocal relationship when we go outbound. And this is what discourages so many SDRs, BDRs, full cycle reps from doing cold calling, because it really is one of the only things in business where your ego is like on the line, It
doesn't matter if you're like the founder of a multi-million-dollar company and have all these awards and accolades. When you're calling somebody on the phone for the first time that doesn't know you, or maybe doesn't realize who you are, man, that is an ego check, isn't it?
It really is. And, most people can't handle it, right? And they just simply can't handle it. And then they'll start saying things like cold calling is dead. Oh, the software doesn't work. These leads are bad, blah, 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 right? So I'm fanatical about a process and a strategy for doing cold calling, where I will agree, cold calling, picking up the yellow pages, dialing random numbers one by one with your phone, like, my dad might have done back in the day. My dad never did any cold calling, by the way. He's an engineer. But, people my parents' age, cold calling was a little different back in the day. Now, there's so much software out there. Use software to make your life easier. And it's not just the software, though. You got to have a process. You have to have a structure and a strategy to how you use the tools to get the most out of them. And that's my world, man. I became obsessed with that problem pretty early on in my career.
No, that's awesome. I mean, we very much align on that, Kevin, and I'm happy to hear that you follow me. I hope my content is good for you. But I 100% subscribe to that. Is that most of the times when you talk to people and they say something doesn't work, cold calling doesn't work, cold emailing doesn't work, all these other things, 90% of the time it's because they're not actually working the correct process, or they're not working the process consistently, right? So you might have somebody who says, sequences don't work, but then they're really only focusing on automated emails, right? They're ignoring the concept of adding call touches, adding social touches, adding manual emails in there, really communicating and engaging and learning about your prospect, right? And so when somebody says sequences don't work, I always kind of laugh to myself, because it's like, well, yeah, they probably don't work because you haven't done them correctly, or you kind of gave up after your first couple hundred messages that, just went into the abyss and maybe didn't even get delivered or something like that. Right.
Sure. And, the way that I was explaining it to a VP of sales last week, right? He was saying, well, Kevin, why should we buy this software? This software looks cool and newfangled, but if I get the software, I don't need you, right? Because look at what they're promising me. And it was a sequencing tool. And I said, look, you can buy a Ferrari, but if you've never driven a supercar before, you're going to burn some gears real quick, right? It's supercars that don't drive like the rest of, you can't just put the key in the ignition and turn it and press go. You've got pedal shifters, you got all sorts of stuff. So you need a Ferrari driver, right? And that's kind of one of the ways that I've pitched what I do when people get to the point and they're saying, well, these sales engagement tools, they promise the world. It seems like it's so easy. I'm like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. And what people realize is they burn those gears, right? They grind those gears real quick, and they get a tool thinking that it will fix a process problem.
Yeah, 100%. And not only that, but even if they are able to physically drive the Ferrari, are they going to be able to do the Ferrari things without the coaching?
Right.
Because sure, it can go from stop sign to stop sign, but can it burn on a track and actually win a race?
That's right. Yeah, the metaphor works really well, because you're trying to get to the finish line, right? And you'll get there. If your Ferrari's burning gears and you're going slowly, you'll get there. It'll just take you much longer, right? And most of the organizations I work with are venture-backed. So the venture-backed model is, hey, I want you to do this much work in this much time. I'm going to give you all this money to go do it. And I'm a huge fan of helping people deploy that capital in a way that I've actually, I've used it very, very effectively with over 50 different businesses in the last 4 years here. So.
That's amazing, Kevin. And that's again why I invited you on this podcast. I knew you had something awesome to say. So let's switch gears a little bit now and talk about what's happening today. So how many meetings a month are you booking today on average?
Yeah, I'd say anywhere between 14 and 18 a month. And I do so in a combination of ways, right? I think I'm basically a small business owner. I don't ignore any channel. Right. So I'll do a phone call, a direct pick up the phone. I'm also doing a lot of LinkedIn content. I'm also doing a revamp of my website and other things where I'm trying to get people to come look at me. But yeah, I do pretty well without putting in a ton of effort, because I'm not venture backed and I'm not looking to grow 600% in the next year. I'm kind of running my own thing here. So yeah, anywhere from, kind of 14 to 18 a month.
That's awesome. No, that's very good, because there's a lot of people out there that would look at 14, 18 a month and think, wow, would my revenue team ever be amazing if everybody did that? Right?
That is the truth, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. And anybody listening in, just check with your boss, check with your direct reports, what have you. Confirm this, because I bet you someone on your team is thinking this. Right? So if you think about the last time you were booking less than 10 meetings a month, because we've all been there, what would you say was different from today?
I think, there are a few things that lead to slow months for me. One of them is being busy with fulfillment, right? And how, not bandwidth. A lot of people listening to this are not solopreneurs like I am. they might be a full cycle sales rep, right? And that's kind of, think of me as my own full cycle sales rep, where you have to balance a book of business with getting new business. So this really goes back to, I think one of the problems that I've had from time to time, which everyone does, is consistency, right? It's like brushing your teeth. If you're not brushing your teeth every night, the dentist is going to know. And the dentist might not know, but the hygienist will. The hygienist that pokes all your teeth and gets in your gums, they'll be like, man, when do you floss? I'm like, I flossed, for a week before my appointment. They know. Right. And
they can see right through you. They can see
with
it.
your outbound pipeline, there's no fake in this, right? Without the touches, without the action going out, you're not going to see results. So you have to take that approach.
Yeah. And if you have the right tools, then there's a digital footprint that shows that you're not flossing every day.
That's right. And that's actually, with some of my customers, I help them set up dashboards inside of Salesforce and HubSpot and things like that to show us our dental health metrics. Are we doing the amount of touches, right? Because every engagement that I do starts in a spreadsheet, because we have to prove the model works with healthy assumptions, right? The assumptions around a reasonable number of touches that the reps can make, an assumption around a reasonable conversion rate, and then from the meetings that we get, what's a sales accepted rate, what's a close rate, and then if we can model all that out and the numbers work, then that's my turn. That's my turn to step in and say, okay, cool. Let's play with these metrics. We need the activity to happen. We need the activity to be quality. And we need to have enough quantity for the conversion rate on the sales side, right? Because if you're setting 14 meetings a month, but your sales team closes 5%, well, you're only going to get a close every other month. Like, you're not going to get there, right? So you got to know those numbers, and that's kind of how I start every engagement.
Oh, I love that. I'm a huge fan and proponent of what I call down funnel conversions, really looking at sales accepted, the pipeline value, and really optimizing your top of funnel around that. So I love to hear that there's other people, waving that flag with me.
For sure.
So let's talk about now, today, when you look at that 14 to 18 meetings, one of the things you said was, going across all different channels and, not really looking at any one channel as faux pas or won't go there. But what would you say if somebody was starting out today, what would be the one thing that you would tell them that they need to do in order to book over 10 meetings a month?
You need to understand your buyers, right? So, and then what that backs into, that's a broad statement. Well, yeah, of course I know my buyers. I've sold some stuff before. Well, you need to understand exactly who you want your buyers to be. Now, what that looks like is one list that pairs with one message, with one set of objection overcoming and talk track, right? So that's like the number one thing that when I start working with clients, I say, okay, cool. Let's look at, you have Zoom info, you've got seamless.ai or whatever database. Let's see what you pull out of there. And of course, the parameters they set to build these lists is all optimized for volume, right? Which is another something, if you want to do a 45-minute podcast talking about data, I can do it, because I've seen this in so many organizations where from the top all the way to the bottom, everyone's talking about need better leads, more leads. And it's all about big numbers. So they go buy a big database that has all these big numbers in it. They don't think about efficiency and effectiveness and targeting and getting niche and getting very specific. And they wonder why they blast out 3,000 emails and only get 2 replies.
And burn their email, their domain health and all that stuff in the meantime, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of companies light that stuff on fire just because they don't know any better, right? Which is why you and I exist, man. We're trying to help people, man. We help people.
We really are. And you know what? Like, I set out, my mission was always to not make sales not a dirty word. So when you hear people say, like, I'm a sales coach, I'm outbound seller, all that kind of stuff, they're like, oh, you're the one that calls me when I don't want you to, or something like that. Well, the truth is when you actually have something valuable to say and valuable to provide to somebody, then sales is no longer a dirty word, and getting that cold call isn't something that you want to escape from right away, right? Exactly. If people are providing value and engaging you in a real communication, like a real conversation, then you're not going to be as reluctant as accepting that cold call. Yep.
And, to that point, I'll get even more tactical with the advice, right? So what this means, know your buyer, it means if I'm going to build a list and I could potentially... So for me, let's talk about, like, if I was trying to sell Hopp Consulting, which I try to do all the time, I could talk to a CEO, I could talk to a CFO, I could talk to a VP of sales. Then I can also talk to a BDR manager, right? There could be a BDR manager that I could work with in some capacity. I'm not going to take one email sequence or one call track, one script to a list that has all of that. I'm going to separate that out. And when I'm calling or emailing CEOs, it's one talk track. It's a one message. When I'm emailing CFOs, it's a different talk track, a different message, right? And then if I'm working on the tactical level with either reaching out to reps or managers, then it's very different. So you have to be very specific, and that's how a cold call turns into something really valuable. Because if that person on the other end of the line feels like they were a name on a list and they say, well, you don't even know what I do. And you get caught with your pants down. You're like, oh, well, don't you want to know what I do? That's why I'm calling. Well, that's impersonal, right? And that's dead, dude. That's called cold calling. You don't know really who you're calling or why. And you're just dialing for dollars.
Smile and dial, baby.
Smile and dial. I'm all for smiling and dialing after you have really solid process on the front end, right? Put more time and effort into list building. By the way, we're heading into the 2 best list building weeks of the year. The holiday break is all about list building. My clients, that's what we're focusing on. I'm saying, look, we're not going to double down on the gas pedal, trying to call people who are with their families and taking time off. We'll do some, but we're mostly going to focus on list building and all that front end, back office, whatever you want to call it, that is so crucial that most companies skip because they're saying, I want results now. So headed into a great time for list building.
No, that's really exciting. I mean, that dovetails exactly what your top secret is today, Kevin. Thank you for sharing. It's really know your buyer. So really understand who you're going after, what problems that they have that you can solve, and then how you can actually, what type of things you're going to say actually in order to go and get their attention. But what's really important though is that from a practical perspective is you're talking about building lists. So spending the next couple of weeks, most people like your clients, my clients, pretty much everybody's going to be building these amazing prospecting lists so we can hit the ground running in January 1 and just go. Right? Don't look back. Well, that is fantastic advice. And I think everybody listening should take it to heart, is that if you spend a few more minutes, hours, what have you, on building your list up front and segmenting it, just like Kevin says, and making sure you have a specific sequence for each persona, customer group, what have you, then you're going to save yourself a ton of time and effort in calling the wrong people, blasting emails to the wrong addresses and all these other things. And you're going to have a much better time of putting points on the board. And to what Kevin said earlier, you're not going to have to book 14 meetings to get one close every second month, right? If you start by knowing your buyer, you're going to be in a much better position. You're going to get the right meetings on the board, which are going to actually turn into revenue, which is the whole point of what we do. So yeah, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your insight. It's been a true pleasure you joining me today, and I really hope to have you again soon.
Thanks. Anyone listening, want to connect with me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I also have this page, solo.to/Hopp.
Thank you for joining us for the Outbound Sales Podcast. We hope you learned something new that you can use today to start filling your funnel and leveling up your outbound sales game. If you're still looking for more support and guidance on how to get to 10 meetings or more booked a month, then go to outboundsos.com. There's something for everybody. Thanks and happy hunting.